White-collar jobs aren't just shrinking, they're disappearing. Roles that existed 2 years ago are gone. Applications die in silence. Entire career ladders are being deleted without a single layoff announcement. And yet the economy still reports low unemployment. But in reality, that is the collapse. A market that looks stable on paper, but falls apart the moment you step inside. White-collar work isn't only vanishing, it's compressing. The ladder people spent decades climbing is shrinking from the top and bottom at the same time. Companies aren't firing, they're removing space where jobs used to exist, automating tasks, merging roles, and letting entire departments fade out quietly. That's why everything feels disconnected. Unemployment stays low, while qualified people can't even get a call back. Remote work widened the battlefield, and AI ate the administrative jobs, junior roles, and the coordinators that held departments together. It's not a collapse, it's a sequence. And once the dominoes fall, there's no pausing it. The first sign of collapse wasn't layoffs, it was openings disappearing. Because of the COVID era, the US overhired. Job boards that were overflowing in 2021 turned into graveyards by 2024. 1 month roles were being posted, the next, everything was paused, on hold, or under review. Nothing loud, just a quiet national tap of the brakes. By the time the economists called it the big freeze, workers were already living it.
It happened again. I got laid off from my product research role.
I was just recently let go from my company. It was a tech company that I worked for.
So I got laid off.
White-collar jobs had slowed to the weakest pace in over a decade, even though unemployment was still saying everything was fine. But in reality, people were sending 100 applications just to get one automated rejection. Companies realized that profit mattered more than growth. High interest rates, expensive capital, shareholders demanding margins, it all pushed leadership into the same direction: freeze, hold, and wait. And then something subtle happened. They realized that the machine could keep running without the people who left. Teams stretched, automated, reorganized, and the numbers, well, they still hit. That's when the freeze shifted from caution to strategy. Because once a company survives 1 quarter without a replacement, it tries for 2. And when 2 looks profitable, that's the moment they decide that they didn't need that role at all. This is the real fracture. The job market stayed strong on paper, but the white-collar ladder stopped growing in real life. Nearly 1 million fewer workers were created in 2024 than the government first reported. Revisions showed the truth. Tech, consulting, finance, the backbone of white-collar work, were actually shrinking, not expanding. That's the first domino you feel, not when you're fired, but when there's nowhere left to apply. Because when the hiring freeze becomes the plan, the next question companies ask is brutal. If we survived without refilling the jobs, do we even really need the position anymore?
The unemployment rate for new college grads has recently surged, and some economists say businesses are now replacing entry-level jobs with artificial intelligence.
The freeze didn't stop the cuts, it made room for a new kind. Because yes, AI is taking jobs. The headline numbers are real.
Our Jen Elias obtained leaked audio from an internal Alphabet meeting revealing that the company has quietly cut 35% of its small team managers over the past year.
27,000 plus layoffs directly blamed on AI since 2023, 10,000 plus in 2025, and entire support teams at big companies shrunk almost overnight. But that's the part most people see. That's the surface level collapse, the one that the press releases. The real damage, though, it happened 1 layer underneath. Because once hiring froze, AI slipped into the empty seats, not with a new revolution moment, with convenience. A chatbot here, a workflow there, a junior task handled automatically, and suddenly, the job that used to require a person didn't.
I was told by a lot of people that I was gonna get a job right out of college, and then all of a sudden, there's no jobs.
Salesforce cut its service org from 9,000 to 5,000 after deploying automation. IBM froze 7,800 back office jobs and said flat out 30% of those roles can be automated within 5 years. They weren't replaced, they were erased by attrition. That's the quiet part. AI isn't replacing people when they get hired, it's replacing them when they leave. That's why the collapse feels so strange. People aren't only getting laid off, the jobs are also erasing themselves. By mid-2025, the official AI layoff numbers were distractions. The bigger story, that even when they didn't refill roles, everything still got done. That realization changed everything. AI stopped being an assistant, it became the default employee for entire categories: admin work, HR coordination, scheduling, junior analysis, all the career ladder jobs that used to train new workers, all thinning out, one resignation at a time. But this isn't the end of the collapse, it's the setup for the next one. If companies don't need as many local employees, and if AI already handles the lowest rung, why would employers limit themselves to a local workforce at all? This is where the collapse spreads, from automation to the entire global labor market. And while AI took the main course, remote work took whatever was left on the plate. And the moment companies stopped needing local talent, they stopped thinking locally at all. At first, remote work felt like a win. More freedom, more flexibility, more options. But underneath that, it blew hiring gates wide open. One role in Seattle now competes with applicants in Austin, Toronto, Manila. Salaries flatten, employers fish for the cheapest qualified candidate, and global talent hits the same jobs at a fraction of the cost. And the numbers, they confirm it. US companies are offshoring white-collar work fast. Professional roles, analysts, HR, admin, software testers are quietly moving overseas because companies can save 10% on wages with one hiring decision. Salesforce, for example, announced major layoffs in its Bay Area.
Now the company, a longtime Bay Area tech giant, says it will cut 4,000 jobs.
But at the same time, the company increased its international employees. For employers, it means perfectly efficient. For workers, the ground tilts under the entire white-collar world, because now you're not just competing with your city, you're competing with the entire planet. And remote isn't just an option anymore, it's a sorting mechanism. And here's the real fracture. AI shrank the number of roles that are needed by humans. Remote hiring shrank the number of humans who get those roles. This is the part people feel without having the language for it. We didn't just lose the jobs, we lost leverage. But this loss, it doesn't end the collapse. It created the next break. Profits over people. If AI compresses headcount and global hiring pushes wages down, the one lever companies have left is cost. And that's where cuts turn permanent. Once companies saw that they could run lean, they made it the plan. It starts the same way in every boardroom. If AI is doing more and global hiring is cheaper, why are we still structuring like it's 2019? Middle management becomes the first target. UPS cuts 12,000 supervising roles. Tech firms erase entire layers. Job postings for managers fall 12.7% over the first quarter. While this graph shows the shrinking of white-collar jobs, what looks like a hiring freeze on the outside is really a cost structure collapsing inwards. By 2025, corporations realized something brutal. Every headcount reduction flowed straight to the bottom line. Margins widened, earnings looked cleaner, and the markets were up while the economy was down. That math locked itself in. Fewer people, lower payroll, higher productivity, and stronger quarterly reports. So they thought to themselves, why go back? And this is the era that corporations move from cut where we must to cut because it works. That's why middle management isn't coming back. That's why junior development pipelines are evaporating. That's why roles feel like they're disappearing, because they are. And for workers, the effect is devastating. A system that was built on growth is now optimized for contraction. There's no longer a hiring slowdown, it's a structural redesign. Because this is where the jobs are really going. By the time cost cutting hits, you'd expect someone to rebuild the ladder, but that's not what's happening. While the office economy is collapsing, another economy is expanding under it. Healthcare, manufacturing, logistics, energy are all sectors expected to grow. Healthcare is surging, manufacturing is in demand, physical industries are rising, and the energy sector, it's innovating. These aren't desk jobs, they're physical, technical, skilled, and non-negotiable. The white-collar world shrank, the real economy surged. Governments saw where the drag was. They didn't try to save office work, they just pivoted. Because the future that they're building isn't a return to 2018 white-collar life. It's a rebuild of the physical, digital, and energy systems the next 30 years depends on. And here's the part people feel instinctively. No one is protecting white-collar jobs. They're protecting the industry that will run the next economy. The opportunities didn't vanish. The truth, it moved. It crossed into sectors that didn't collapse under automation. Two different economies, two different futures, but only one is growing towards opportunity. That's the divide. When you zoom out, the collapse wasn't mysterious, it was a chain reaction. One domino hitting the next, until the entire white-collar ladder tilted sideways. Hiring froze, AI filled the gap, global competition widened the battlefield. Cost-cutting became policy, and the future got rebuilt somewhere else. Investors look at the charts and think the job market is fine. Low unemployment, stable numbers, no recession. But you've seen the inside of it now. You're living it. You've seen where the rungs disappear and where the new ones are being installed. And that's the part that matters. Because this isn't a story about jobs dying. It's a story about jobs moving. Moving into sectors that actually have gravity. Sectors that aren't fragile. Sectors that still exist in 10 years when the next wave of automation hits. The real question isn't, why is the job market collapsing? You already know that. The real question is, where do you want to stand when the next decade gets built? Because the divide is already here. 2 economies, 2 futures. And every choice you make from this point decides which one you're stepping into. It's not comforting, but it's the truth. But from this point, we have only one question left. If this collapse is real, how do people make money after it?